Thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today, Tai, and congratulations again on the recent fundraise announcement. For those watching, Contingent have just announced their 1.75 million seed round, led by our good friends at Connect Ventures. Been pretty excited by their growth to date, and Tai's here to tell us a bit more about that, as well as their recent journey. Fun fact also, Tai's not the first Alegbe we've backed. We actually invested in Tai's twin brother Kenny's businesses. To this day, I don't think I've ever actually seen you both in the same room, so I'm still not sure if it's some kind of Jack Dorsey ruse that we've got going on there. But anyway, it would be awesome to, let's just get straight into it, Tai. Do you want to give us the elevator pitch for Contingent?
Yeah, so Kyran, thanks for inviting me, and I guess thanks to the whole Seedcamp team. Big fans of you guys here at Contingent. So the best way to sort of describe what we've built and what we're building is essentially a supply chain risk solution that enables companies to detect, map, and monitor their supplier risk and operational resilience. It's something we're really excited about. We see it as being quite unique and different, really building towards a new category around supply chain risk as a whole, really.
Do you want to tell us the kind of customers that Contingent works with and the kind of pain points that you're solving specifically for some of those?
So primarily, I think the best way to describe what we do is if you were to go and ask any procurement officer today what had happened to their suppliers or what's happening in their supply chain, I think they would find it quite difficult to give you a really comprehensive answer. Essentially, what we're doing is shedding light on that by enabling companies to get far more deeper insights and analytics across the individual suppliers and their broader supply chain. We work with a range of customers. We've been really fortunate and also highly focused, and as a result, sort of managed to bring on board some really exciting early customers. We were quite heavily involved in responding to elements of the COVID crisis, not necessarily just within the UK, but more broadly. We've seen our product be highly sort of regarded by financial service firms. So there's a broad set of customers from large international corporates to financial service firms to technology businesses. We're seeing quite strong pull from lots of parts of the market, really.
Awesome. Well, what exactly is the founding story behind Contingent, and how did you get excited by this opportunity? And in terms of bringing that team together to solve it, how did that come about?
I would say that I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I've been building businesses since I was in my teenage years. As you know, my brother's quite similar, and I think we come from a family of entrepreneurs as well. So I actually was really fortunate. Built sort of my first business at 16, built another business at 21, which I actually sold. And that was quite a catalyst moment for me. What I recognized was that actually being an entrepreneur was the journey that I wanted to commit to for life. So at a relatively early age, I recognized that, one, I wanted to build a high growth startup, scale up, and then really large category leading business. And two, to be able to do that, there were really important things that I would need to learn. I recognized really three important lessons. One, I would need to partner with some of the best technical talent that I could find in Europe and really understand the technical landscape to be able to build a great technology business. Two, I would need to join a scale up to understand the sort of journey of a business like that and understand the good and the bad from an organization at its heart. And then three, also to move to the US. This may sound like a contrarian view to some, but I still believe that the US market is a great opportunity for European startups. And if you really want to build a globally leading business, understanding the US market is important. So I did all three of those things. I found several technical sort of co-founders for a previous project that I'd worked on, with the view that we would build a relationship together over several years on the basis that we would end up eventually building what is now Contingent. At the same time, I also joined a UK scale-up and then moved to the US and spent sort of 3 years or so, or just under 3 years in New York. So ticked off all of those elements and recognized that it was the right time to come back to the UK and build Contingent with the team and the other co-founders.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That makes sense. And You mentioned a bit there in one of your previous answers about some of the increased visibility on supply chain from the pandemic and COVID, and we've seen everything there from sort of PPP shortages and so on. How exactly has the worldwide pandemic impacted Contingent's growth and some of the opportunities out there for the business, do you think?
Yeah, it's certainly had an impact, a positive impact. I think we've been quite fortunate in that we've been building a business for the future, and it just so happened that an event like the COVID-19 crisis really accelerated that future. So I think we were really well positioned to kind of ride that wave. Certainly led to far more sort of traction. It's led to deals closing quicker. It's led to far more interest in what we've built. I think there was already really strong tailwinds prior to COVID, but it's certainly helped accelerate some of the corporate thinking around supply chain. And again, as I said earlier, what we're building and what we've built is very unique. There's a large degree of defensibility and lots of sort of data moats and intellectual property around it. So in that respect, we're kind of uniquely positioned to take up on this opportunity based on maybe some of the incumbents in the market. So.
And you mentioned as well some of the exciting verticals that the business has seen some traction and demand in at this stage. What other kind of exciting milestones has Contingent reached as a business recently?
Yeah, several really. I think team in particular. I think we've been really fortunate to bring in some of the best and the brightest in their respective fields. That extends to my co-founders who have really exceptional backgrounds from a technology perspective to sort of the core team that have come on board and joined us. So I think in terms of the milestones, really being able to scale out that team. We started as a pretty lean team to start with, but being able to attract the best talent has definitely been a positive milestone for us, and building out sort of a robust process to do that has been important. I would say also on the market side, really getting validation from customers. I've been astonished myself at how quickly customers have signed up to our solution. I know you guys at Seedcamp as well have been super pleased and surprised as well at how customers have responded. I mean, we've signed up really large organizations in less than 2 weeks, which is sort of unheard of in enterprise SaaS, especially for sort of the average kind of ticket size that we're looking at across these enterprises. So.
Oh, for sure. No, I definitely think one of the most exciting ingredients of your story in the past year or so has been the speed with which you've been able to onboard some pretty flagship customers, and I think that was definitely when it came to the seed raise, a piece which also helped convince the great investors that you then got on board. Taking the story a bit, extending it to the future, we've discussed a bit Contingent in the here and now, but how do you see this sort of broad space of regtech procurement that Contingent plays in? How do you see this world sort of evolving over the next couple of years, and what role do you think Contingent plays in that space?
I think there are sort of two ways of really looking at the space. I would say just inherently from my own experience in this market, I think regtech as a term, there are quite a large number of businesses tackling quite similar problems. Yeah. And in that respect, I would say that there's quite a degree of saturation. Personally, that's just my opinion. In terms of the opportunity that we're tackling, which is probably more focused on sort of the procurement space, but also has overlaps obviously with regtech and fintech. That in itself is quite a sizable opportunity. We think that there's a huge opportunity for us to continue to kind of grow out the business and build this unique category that we're building around analytics and insights on supply chains and resilience primarily. Where I see us going in the future is essentially underpinning most of the most important supply chains in the world. We're essentially building a horizontal product with a vertical focus. And as you can see from kind of some of the early customers I mentioned, and as you know from some of the other customers that you're aware of that we work with, there isn't really a market that we don't touch in terms of being able to deliver value. And that's probably one of the most exciting things as well. So
yeah, that makes sense. And certainly one of the pieces I miss most from the office is having the contingent team there and being able to just grab you in one of the booths and have a quick chat on all kind of things. But yeah, I guess speaking to some of the challenges from working remotely and maybe not being able to have that sort of in-person whiteboarding, or the serendipity from bumping into your investors, bumping into other teams, and everything that can come from that. Yeah, what are some of the biggest challenges you've seen from building a company remotely over the past couple months during COVID?
We've probably been quite fortunate, because when we started, we were sort of remote first. So as a sort of response to that, or as a result to that, we found it quite easy to transition to sort of fully remote. I would say from previous experiences and from kind of the early team to where we are now, I guess one of the challenges that most kind of early businesses like ourselves, or fast growing businesses like ourselves, face is, how do you really embed culture, the culture that you want to sort of permeate throughout the business? How do you ensure that people come on board and they take on board that culture, and they can also contribute to that culture as well, without having that sort of physical face-to-face contact? So that's something that we've worked really, really hard on ensuring. We've tried to make sure that we don't just pack the day full of meetings and collaborating on a work basis, but actually try to get to know people as human beings and people as well, right? So that's something that we've worked really hard on. So there have been a few times when we've caught up and had meals together, and obviously not flouting any of the rules, clearly, and just ensure that we get to really connect as individuals, really. So
yep. And speaking to the fundraising journey specifically, how did you find conducting that almost entirely remotely? I know that maybe you had a few conversations before this mass transition to working from home, etc. But what were some of the challenges, and even did you see any kind of unforeseen advantages there from running that process remotely?
The fundraising process was, and I don't think this speaks to every business, but for us, we were quite fortunate in the sense that we really were well received by a lot of investors. As you know, we were sort of preempted on the round, so we weren't actually looking to go out and raise. We had plans to raise kind of later on this year, but it made sense once we found the right investor to just double down and really go for things. I guess the most surprising thing to me has been probably the interest that we've seen from the US. I mean, obviously, without going into all the details, we could have quite easily closed around with sort of several top US funds as well. So I think to some degree, maybe COVID has played a part in that, because there's more of an appetite for them to invest in a European sort of opportunity where they recognize that remote is the way that they're going to have to do that, and the whole world is now doing it that way. So I think that was definitely an interesting development over the funding process. One of the other things I would say was really just, from our perspective, building conviction on the people that we were speaking to. So ultimately, obviously, investors want to build conviction on you and the team, but you also have to try and build conviction around them as well. I know the venture world likes to sort of position it as the other way around, but I think it's vice versa, right? These are individuals that you're going to work with for the next 10 years potentially, and you need to make sure that they really understand you and you really understand them, and you have a good alignment. And obviously, we've loved working with you guys. You guys have been a fantastic fund. Love the fact that you guys are conviction investors, but also you helped us through the process and really shepherded us through the kind of seed round sort of formal process, I guess it would be the best way to describe it. And also the guys at Connect as well. We've really enjoyed working with them, even though it's quite early still. And some other investors, obviously Concentric, that have come in, and some of our previous investors, like Jens at Angel Invest, Rory at Connect, obviously, Kyran at Concentric, and yourself and Tom, obviously at Seedcamp as well. So all of you have been super helpful, and it made it a very, very comfortable process for us. I would say. I mean, there are, as with any funding round, there are a few things that you need to sort of circumvent, but yeah, we were fortunate to get things over the line and get so many offers. So
no, fantastic outcome. Fantastic outcome. And is there any advice you might give to founders, maybe in your shoes now, that would be starting to pitch investors over the coming months and for obvious reasons not able to meet them in person?
Yeah, I think I would say really take your time to, because obviously you're not with someone in sort of physical proximity, so it's there's a lot of things that you'll often lose by not having that sort of physical contact with someone. So as a result, I think it's important to really just understand sort of the motivations of someone as they're investing in your business, what their philosophy is, the way that they think, and just make sure that there's alignment there. You know, I've got lots of kind of founder friends in my network, and taken a lot of insights from them. And I think, especially at Seed, it's important to kind of balance making sure you work with the right investor over just optimizing for things like valuation and other kind of elements as well. As I said, you know, we could have quite easily raised a different looking round led by a US fund, but actually, you know, it made sense to work with people that we connect with more than anything. So,
got it. That makes sense. Fantastic. So yeah, I mean, just to wrap up now, Tai, last two questions. So what makes a potential customer for Contingent, and why should they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so any customer, any procurement team or head of procurement that can't answer this simple question, which is, do you know what happened to your supply chain today? Do you know what's happening with your suppliers today? If you can't answer that question, then you absolutely should be in contact with us, and let us help you answer that question continuously. So.
And lastly, what positions is Contingent currently hiring for, and where can people find out more?
Yep. So we're certainly hiring right now. Looking for anyone who has led a startup or scale up in kind of an operations role. So chief of operations or head of operations. That's a role we're definitely looking for right now. And in addition to that, customer success head as well. So you can email me directly. You can find my email, or you can email us directly on our website as well. So you'll just find that by just going to the bottom of our website. You can just email directly, or you can connect with us on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, looking forward to getting more and more applications.
Fantastic. And that's it for today, Tai, and congrats once again.
Yeah, no, thanks, Kyran, and yeah, good catching up, and thanks.